Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle is a loose sequel to the 1995 film Jumanji, despite having a different cast, different tone, and, for the most part, different plot. The original film was about a haunted board game themed around jungle adventure scenarios that unleashed an assortment of killer animals and wildlife. For the sequel, the board game transforms into a retro video game that traps 4 teenagers into its world. The best way to describe Jumanji 2 would be if you cross The Breakfast Club with one of the 90s Tomb Raider games, as in the 4 students, each representing a different clique, experience some form of self-discovery on their jungle adventure by means of their avatar, which happens to be the opposite of their own personalities. As in, the timid nerd becomes an Indiana Jones-like adventurer played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the sports-obsessed jock becomes the sniveling sidekick played by Kevin Hart, the shy bookworm girl becomes the tough Lara Croft-type heroine played by Karen Gillan, and the vapid popularity-obsessed girl becomes Jack Black.
No! I'm an overweight middle-aged man.
It's a predictable but workable premise with a lot of comic potential, which, generally speaking, the movie delivers. Admittedly, not all the jokes hit bullseyes, in fact a few fall pretty flat, but they hit more often than they miss, primarily thanks to a strong ensemble cast. The Rock and Kevin Hart have a fun chemistry, Karen Gillan scores some big laughs subverting and parodying multiple gaming tropes, though the MVP is Jack Black. Not only does he completely commit to playing a teenage girl, but through performance and some clever writing creates a far more layered and interesting character than you typically see in a summer blockbuster. Though if there's one major downside to the film, it's the villains. The final boss, a mercenary played by Bobby Cannavale, is blandly written and contributes so little to the actual story that he probably could have been written out entirely with little impact. It's a shame because Cannavale's actually a good actor and the character did have some potential. Also, while I admit the original hasn't held up particularly well over time, nixing the killer animals gimmick in favor of uninspired mercenaries feels like a fairly unimaginative step back. The lack of any interesting villains does admittedly prevent the film from achieving greatness, but the stuff that works is good enough to make this worth a watch. Not a classic, but an enjoyable and frequently funny adventure. I give it 3.5 stars out of 5.